Sports Business Journal predicts NASCAR will return to ESPN, and Kaulig Racing fills out their Cup Series lineup for 2022. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope your week is off to a great start. Lots of NASCAR news to react to today, but first, if you're not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. The season may be over, but the off season has not slowed down one bit, so stay in the loop. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We talk stock cars nearly every single day. Today is no different. Lots of news to get to. Before we talk about the recent rumors that NASCAR could return to ESPN in the next few years, before we talk about Kaulig Racing's big announcement today, there are a couple smaller stories I'd like to hit on. First, yesterday 23XI Racing announced a new sponsorship deal with Wheaties. That's right, the iconic cereal brand. This is really more of a Michael Jordan deal. Michael Jordan and the Wheaties brand, of course, go way back, but it's carrying over into the NASCAR side of things a bit. They will be the primary sponsor for a number of races this year on Bubba Wallace's number 23. I bring it up only because in the past I've said on this show that we need NASCAR drivers on cereal boxes once again. I've verbatim said those words in the last year. And here we have Bubba Wallace, one of the most recognizable names in the sport, sponsored by Wheaties. If we don't get a Bubba Wallace style cereal box, or if at the very least we don't get some NASCAR die-cast giveaways in those cereal boxes, the world is a lost cause. This is a fantastic marketing opportunity, not only for Wheaties, but for Bubba Wallace and all of NASCAR. Over the summer, actually, I was talking to someone who used to work in the marketing department at Cheerios, I believe, a family friend, if you will, and she talked about how when they added those little plastic die-cast cars to the bottom of cereal boxes, they noticeably saw sales increase. Now, that was 15, 20 years ago. I actually have an old Lucky Charms number 43 diecast still that I got when I was a kid, but I imagine kids think largely the same way today. If they see a cool little race car toy at the bottom of the cereal box, they're gonna tell their mom and dad to pick that one out. Big opportunity for NASCAR and Bubba Wallace. I hope Wheaties doesn't squander it. That's all. Second order of business, we've been talking about 2022 paint schemes a lot on this show as they slowly start to get announced. Today, Ally revealed Alex Bowman's 2022 Ally 48 scheme, the primary, and it's a pretty radical shift from 2021. Here's what it looks like. Take a moment to absorb the information given to you. First off, it looks good. I'm trying not to compare this to last year's scheme because I really liked last year's paint scheme. I really loved the shiny purple base with all the pink and kind of light blue accents on it. I really liked last year's paint scheme a lot. This one looks good by itself, but at first glance, I'm not sure if I like it quite as much as last year's scheme. I think the front half of the car looks fantastic. I think the hood looks great on white. I just think the door looks kind of plain. I'll say this, the number placement and the large Ally sponsor and Do It Right logos, I think they make use of the space pretty well. I like their locations, but it's just on a blank white canvas. Like, maybe this will look great on track. It'll be easy to spot. Maybe that's the point. I'm sure it is. But I do miss the accents and some of the details on the side of last year's paint scheme, or when Jimmy Johnson had Ally as his sponsor, those cars. It's also kind of weird that they've got the Chevy bow tie logo on the hood, right above where it would normally be placed, on a Camaro. Teams did not have that last year as far as I remember, so that's maybe gonna take a little getting used to. Overall, it looks good, but I'm gonna need some time to warm up to it. I don't like it quite as much as last year's scheme, at least at first glance, but I like that they're refreshing it, they're keeping it new. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think about that Alex Bowman Ally paint scheme, your first impressions. Now let's talk about some sort of silly season news. Let's talk about Kaulig Racing. They made a big announcement today, one that we've been anticipating for a couple of weeks, but today Kaulig confirmed their entire driver lineup for 2022. Last week, of course, they confirmed their Xfinity lineup. We talked about Landon Castle landing that full-time ride in the 10 car. They've got Allmendinger, Castle, and Daniel Hemrick full-time in Xfinity. It's the best driver lineup in the Xfinity series in my opinion. Now on the Cup Series side of things, we already knew that they had Justin Haley full-time, and I don't think we know what number car he's going to drive yet because the 11's taken, the 10 is taken, but regardless, we know Justin Haley will compete full-time next year in the Cup Series. That second Kaulig car, the 16, we knew AJ Allmendinger was going to make some starts, probably mostly road course starts and maybe some super speedways next year. Well, today, Kaulig announced two other very recognizable drivers who will fill out the rest of the 16 cars races next year. Beginning with Noah Gragson. That's right, Noah Gragson will reportedly make 14 Cup Series starts next year, actually 15 since he's going to attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500 with, I believe, Beard Motorsports. But Gragson, the Xfinity Series regular, will make 14 Cup starts for Kaulig next year. We don't don't know exactly what tracks those will be at, but he will get the majority of races, or I should say a larger share of the 16 cars races next year than either Allmendinger or the third driver specifically. Some very real seat time, a huge opportunity. I predicted this about a week ago because Gragson put out that tweet with just a leaf emoji saying it was a big day in his career. Those tweets kind of confirmed some past rumors that had been circulating, but no, Gragson will make some starts in Cup next year. I'm excited for him. I think this is a great chance for a driver who's run what? He's going into his 4th or 5th full-time year of Xfinity next year. He's kind of become a veteran of that series. He's not the best driver in Xfinity by any means. He's good, but he's not the best. This is a great way for him to dip his toe into the Cup Series and make some laps with a good team, a good group of guys, I think, that will really help him develop, hopefully help him mature. I think this is great. Get a young driver some opportunities in the very different next-gen car. Now, Gragson will make 14 starts next year, but there are 38 races that 16 car will be entered in. So those other 24 will reportedly be split by AJ Allmendinger and Daniel Hemric. That's right, Hemric will race full-time for Kaulig in Xfinity. He'll run for an Xfinity championship, but he will run about a third of the races for Kaulig in the NASCAR Cup Series. This will be Daniel Hemric's first Cup Series ride since 2019. He ran full-time for Richard Childress Racing. He won Rookie of the Year and finished 25th in the points that season. Good deal for Hemric as well. He's a veteran who's obviously proven himself in the Xfinity Series. He doesn't win a whole lot, but he's very consistent. He's not going to get in too many people's way, so I like this move as well. I think the combination of Allmendinger, a veteran who's a great road racer and a good super speedway racer, honestly, with Hemric, who's a very smooth, consistent, steady guy, and Gragson, who's a little more of a wild card, a little sometimes off the deep end. It sounds like an odd pairing, but I think combined they will all bring out the best in each other. They're all going to be good for each other. Gragson and Allmendinger might help Hemric be a little more aggressive sometimes. Meanwhile, Hemric will certainly dial back Gragson a little bit, some of his more outlandish tendencies. At least that's what we'd hope. I thought it was great. Kaulig put a little video out on Twitter when they made the announcement today that honestly did not shy away from the fact that all three of these drivers, notably Gragson and Hemric, have had run-ins recently. Like, that shouldn't be glossed over. Less than a year ago, Hemric and Gragson were throwing punches at each other on pit road. Now they are teammates at Kaulig Racing, the most family-oriented team in NASCAR.
We may have had our differences on track,
but this year, we race as a family.
I think that second Kaulig car is going to be pretty competitive next year. I mean, that car won a race in 2021 with AJ Allmendinger at the Indy Road Course. I could absolutely see one of these three drivers stealing a win, maybe a couple of them. I think Gregson's probably the weakest of the three just because he has the least experience. He's the most inconsistent, but Allmendinger's proven he can win in that car, and I think Daniel Hemric will have opportunities to run near the front. I'm excited about Kaulig's Xfinity and Cup Series program. I think they will continue to be a fun team to root for next season, but share your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you like the addition of Noah Gragson into the Kaulig family, or do you think that's going to blow things up? Do you like Hemric going back to the Cup Series? Leave a comment down below. Because I know some of y'all will ask, there still is no word on what Matt DiBenedetto's future plans will be. It sounds like he does not have any deals close to being done. Same goes for Ryan Newman. I've seen Bob Pockris report a couple times that Ryan Preece is working on some deals for next season, so maybe that will happen. But sorry to Benedetto fans, still doesn't sound like there's anything close to happening for Matty D. Now, last story, and this is the big thing I want to talk about here this afternoon. Yesterday, John Ourand, reporter for Sports Business Journal, put out an article where he attempted to predict the television futures of many sports, including NASCAR. NASCAR's current multi-billion-dollar TV contracts with NBC and Fox do not expire until after 2024, so we still have 3 full seasons left under this deal, but negotiations are expected to heat up for 2025 and beyond. John Ourand, and I hope I'm saying his last name correctly, predicts that Fox will be very interested in renewing with NASCAR, but NBC might be a bit more cautious given that they're shutting down NBCSN at the end of this month. Ourand predicts that ESPN will be very interested, and he predicts ESPN will be one of NASCAR's broadcast partners in 2025. Here's the full paragraph from the article. When the car racing circuit starts its negotiations next year, it will find that Fox wants to renew, while NBC Sports, which will shut down NBCSN on January 1st, is more tepid. Talks with ESPN will heat up this year. Fox and ESPN will split the NASCAR package as part of a deal signed in 2023. It's important to note that this is just a prediction. This is John Ourand, who does work in this field. This is his specialty. This is his prediction for what the future NASCAR contract is going to look like. Nothing has actually been signed or finalized to anyone's knowledge, but this got a lot of people in and around NASCAR talking yesterday because ESPN has not broadcast NASCAR, has hardly talked about NASCAR since the end of the 2014 season. So hearing that ESPN might end up being one of NASCAR's highest bidders in the next couple of years, that's kind of surprising. What's a little more surprising to me though is his prediction that NBC won't be very interested in NASCAR. Because over the last few years, it really feels like NBC has made a serious investment in motorsports, not just NASCAR, but if we do focus on NASCAR, they've added tremendous on-air talent like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Burton, Steve Letarte, Dale Jarrett, Kyle Petty. Guys who I think have successfully been able to capture the energy and experience that NASCAR fans want from a NASCAR television broadcast. Uran does point out there that NBC's sports dedicated network, NBCSN, is about to shut down. And I guess that's probably what's driving his prediction. Many of NASCAR's races that would have been on NBCSN will be on USA Network next year, which I actually think is kind of a win for NASCAR and for fans. It's important to note though that NBCSN is shutting down not necessarily due to a lack of live sports. They've had tons of live sports programming on that network over the years, including NASCAR, including IndyCar. But as many in the industry would note, while ESPN, while FS1 have tons of original programming during the day, shows like First Take, Around the Horn, or Skip and Shannon, Colin Cowherd on FS1, NBCSN doesn't really have any of that. They fill out a lot of their daytime schedule with infomercials and stuff that nobody's watching. I still think NBC will put in an offer to NASCAR. Maybe it won't be the highest, but I think they'll put in a decent offer because they do have Peacock now, and a lot of sports programming is heading over to Peacock. And obviously, I think if NASCAR goes fully onto streaming in the next couple of years, that will be a death sentence. But maybe NBC can still find value in NASCAR, putting it on USA Network, NBC, and maybe simulcasting on Peacock like they did at the end of this last season. I think that would be maybe the future, maybe a way forward. Again, I'd just be really surprised if NBC does not put in a decent offer. They've invested so much into motorsports. They bid on the whole IndyCar schedule for this next TV contract. I'd be surprised and a bit disappointed if NBC dropped NASCAR after 2024. Who knows? That's 3 years from now. Their quality of coverage could drop significantly. I feel like over the last couple of years, their coverage has improved actually, and right now I actually prefer the NBC broadcast races over what Fox is putting out. So I'd be bummed if NBC does not pick up the rights in 2025. But now let's talk about ESPN. Why would ESPN jump back into the world of stock car racing? Like I said, they haven't broadcast a NASCAR race since 2014. And quite honestly, they've shown very little interest in NASCAR since then. It wasn't that long ago that Bob Pockrass was let go. He now works for Fox Sports. To my knowledge, at least, ESPN does not carry any dedicated NASCAR writers. Fox has Bob Pockrass, obviously. NBC has guys like Dustin Long, Nate Ryan. ESPN's got Ryan McGee, who's fantastic, but he's not exclusively NASCAR. Same with Marty Smith. They are much more than that. They do college sports and a whole bunch of other stuff. And in addition to NASCAR occasionally, Ryan McGee, in fact, I think worked on a Bubba Wallace E60 documentary that I believe is airing tonight. So it's not like they don't have anyone who talks NASCAR, but they don't have anyone who's dedicated to it the way those other major networks do. The timing's also interesting because right now, ESPN holds the American broadcasting rights to Formula One races. That very ESPN-friendly contract is up after 2022, and ESPN has shown interest in renewing with F1 after next season. In fact, in this same Sports Business Journal article I'm talking about, John Uran predicts that ESPN will renew with F1 next summer. So if ESPN sticks with F1, is there going to be enough room in the budget, enough room on the calendar to also broadcast NASCAR? ESPN has a lot of channels to choose from. Obviously, there's main ESPN, ESPN2, which are both cable channels. But then they got ABC, which is a broadcast channel, the same way Fox or NBC are. So they do have options. There are a lot of places they could put these races, but they've also got ESPN Plus, which is their own streaming service. And I know they're putting a lot of exclusive sports content on there right now. I'd hate to see lots of NASCAR content get bumped to streaming. And more importantly, I just hate to see ESPN not show NASCAR the care it and its fans deserve. There's a couple cons I have. That's one big one. I just don't fully trust ESPN's devotion to NASCAR. And secondly, I'm not convinced that the quality of the broadcast will be great. I think when ESPN left NASCAR after 2013, 2014, the team they had, Alan Bestwick, Dale Jarrett, Andy Petrie, I thought the broadcasts were solid. Not always perfect, but at least the commentary, the presentation was stout. Alan Bestwick works with CBS now on the SRX. I don't know what that contract looks like. Maybe he'd come back to ESPN a few years down the line and and cover NASCAR races, but Dale Jarrett's older and he's with NBC technically right now. Andy Petrie works at RCR. I'm thinking back to some of the classic names and faces we saw on ESPN. Brad Doherty's with ESPN as well, and obviously those NBC guys could come back over since NBC might drop NASCAR, but we don't know that for sure. Guys like Dr. Jerry Punch, I think he's still doing some stuff with the network, but he's almost 70 years old. I don't know if you'll still see him running up and down pit road if ESPN comes back. Guys like Ryan McGee and Marty Smith, like I mentioned, could see extended roles on TV, which I think would be really good. I think Nicole Briscoe still works with ESPN as well, so that'd be an option. But I'm just not sold that ESPN will put together the best broadcast possible, especially now that I've kind of warmed up to what NBC's been doing. Rick Allen still has his Rick Allen moments, but I love the enthusiasm and honestly the insight that Dale Earnhardt Jr., Steve Letarte, and Jeff Burton add to the broadcast more often than not. So right now, that's going pretty well. I hate to see it messed with and change over to ESPN where we really don't know what we're getting. Now, I know there's some cons. I'm throwing out a lot of potential concerns I might have, but there are some pros if NASCAR were to go back to ESPN in the next 3 years. For one, maybe Alan Bestwick does come back. I'm sorry, I don't mean to dwell on Alan, but I love Alan Bestwick. I know he's doing the SRX, but 3-4 years from now, maybe situations look a bit different. We could see Bestwick come back for a few years. I'd love that. ESPN as a brand is somewhat polarizing these days, but you can't deny its reach. I mean, the main channel ESPN reaches nearly 80 million households in the US, and it's routinely the most watched cable sports channel year in, year out. ESPN comes with a lot of eyeballs, quite frankly, and that could help NASCAR, especially in the short term as they try to regain some of their grasp on the mainstream American sports market. So there are some pros that could come with it, but there are a lot of concerns as well. I honestly like what NBC's done the last couple of years, especially more than what Fox has done the last couple of years. Fox seems to be kind of dwindling right now with Mike Joy maybe nearing the end of his run. They don't have somebody to replace Jeff Gordon yet for next season, which has me worried that it's going to be just Mike Joy and Clint Boyer calling the races for the first 20 weeks of the season, and I don't know if I can handle that. So if I had my druthers, if you will, I'd pick NBC to either broadcast the entire season or maybe split NBC up with ESPN and just give ESPN a chance, because right now Fox is not showing a lot of promise. I don't know, but this prediction that we'll see Fox and then ESPN has me a little concerned. There are some pros associated with it, but I think it's fair to be worried that the quality will not be what we're used to. The care won't be what we expect, what we feel like we deserve. So I don't know, share your thoughts down below. Do you think it's likely that ESPN goes after NASCAR's broadcasting rights once again? Would you like to see NBC stay? What would your perfect broadcast combination be? Leave a comment down in the comment section below. That's gonna do it for this episode. Covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for watching. Again, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk about the latest NASCAR news and notes nearly every single day here on Out of the Groove. And as always, a big thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. Couldn't do this show without your tremendous and continued support. We'll be back later this week. There'll be more to talk about, I'm sure, before we get to Christmas and New Year's. Appreciate the support, y'all. I'll see you in the next video.